The CVAL breakdown, I guess. We've gone through 2 tournaments thus far. Let me turn the music a little bit more. We've gone through 2 tournaments thus far. It's been pretty exciting, honestly. I've been able to cast the West. I've been following up with the North as well. Keep an eye on the East and the South. They don't have as much tournament coverage. They don't have as many streams, but nonetheless, it's been really cool to see how Riot's handled it, and I really like this format. Of course, there are things that could be different. I mean, everyone's been questioning about the LAN and everything, and while I understand that Riot doesn't have all the money in the world, you know, it would have been nice to maybe have top 4, have something else along those lines, but hey, I'm not going to be one to judge. I don't know what the budget's like behind there. Tesla's done a great job with CVAL, everything, so no complaints there, but just thought I'd break down how everything works out. I guess we'll start with the North here. Actually, no, let's start with the East. The East is the easiest one. This is basically how I calculated everything out, and you know, all the points sort of translate over, all that sort of stuff. Main thing is that the East has had, I want to say, the most consistency. You know, having Fisher finish 3rd and then winning the next time around, FIU sort of coming in as this, I don't want to say unknown school, but as a very good roster in the winter, sort of just qualifying off of that. Ottawa having a very good fall run, having an unfortunate winter, but still getting a lot of points. And then, of course, UCF Black Dark Knights having a really good winter run as well. There's a lot of consistency that has been built in the East. And overall, I think that the top 4 teams there are quite good still. But yeah, the reason why Ottawa have already qualified is basically there is these 4 teams: Ottawa, UCF, Rutgers Black, Scarlet Knights Black, sorry, and Stony Brook, who haven't qualified yet. And at the end of this tournament, with the fact that there's 4 auto qualifies already in there, we could end up with a situation where 5th and 6th get the auto qualify seeds. In which case, you know, Ottawa, UCF win 1 game, and they qualify. They literally don't need to do anything else. They can sort of drop the ball in that sense. The opposite side of it, though, is the fact that even if they don't win a single game, they advance on points regardless. So in the situation where Ottawa and UCF or Black or Dark Knights or whatever, they don't get a single win, they still have more points than SNHU that will let them move on points. So that's sort of the main caveat as to why those teams have already advanced. I guess it just took someone to sort of do the math behind it for some of these teams to figure it out, because, I mean, it is confusing in how it works. But no matter what, SNHU is stuck at 60. They are not in top 8 this time around. They are capped out at 60 points. They cannot gain any more. Ottawa, UCF, they already have 20 points from this tournament. That means that, you know, UCF, Black, or Dark Knights will be at 70 points. Ottawa will be at 100 points. That is more than enough to qualify. And something that some people may notice is that, you know, Scarlet Knights Black can get to 115, which would push Ottawa down to 100, and so can SBU. But they can't both get 3rd. Because either way, if they are getting the points for 3rd place, or for 4th place for that matter, that would mean that Ottawa and UCF have won the tournament. If they are 3rd and 4th place and Ottawa and UCF aren't in those positions above them, then it's because one of these 4 AQ teams has already picked it up, and they move on from there. The interesting thing we'll have to see what happens is who gets the auto qualify if, let's say it's Winthrop Converse, and then Ottawa moves on as one of those, and then it's Fisher in 4th place, and both Scarlet Knights Black and SBU are in 5th, 6th, because that's the same position technically. That's a question I don't have the answers to. I will probably be asking Riot about that whenever I can, unless that is sort of explicitly stated. That might lead to a tiebreaker between these 2 teams. If that does happen, this is just a hypothetical. If these 2 teams finish 5th, 6th, Ottawa gets the auto qualify, and then let's say Dark Knights are finishing 7th, 8th. they don't get the auto qualifier right away, they will still move on points because they will have 70. All of these teams would have 60. Out of these two teams, one of them, I guess, would play a tiebreaker to figure out who gets that auto qualify seed, if that is the case, or if it's based on game differential, or if it's based on any other factor. There would be a tiebreaker between these two, and then past that, there would be another tiebreaker between the loser of this matchup and then SNHU to decide who goes on points. I believe that's how the tiebreaker situation works out. I should actually pull up the rules here as well. That might be helpful. We'll keep that in the background for now. But I believe tiebreakers are decided... Let's see. It's listed down here. Phase 1 tiebreakers don't matter. Phase 2 seeding doesn't matter. It's effective championship qualification. This is the thing that a lot of people have been questioning. Teams that have qualified for the college championship are eligible to compete in additional tournaments throughout the seasons, but will not accrue any additional points. That basically just means that Red Bull Campus Clutch doesn't count, all that sort of stuff. Of course, this is for this year. I don't know if that's going to change in the future, but it is what it is. If a team that qualified for the college championship is unwilling or unable to claim the spot for any reason, the team with the next highest championship point ranking for that division will qualify it in their place. Should a team that has already qualified for the college championship place first or second in an additional tournament, the qualification will instead be awarded to the next team in the standings. That's how that AQ works. So that means that if, in the East situation, if it's 1, 2, 3, 4 in whatever order, then the team that comes 5th and 6th, they will auto-qualify. 7th and 8th will have to figure it out on points. If 2 or more teams are tied in the standings at that point, a series of tiebreaker matches would be played to determine who receives the qualification. And that's, best of 3 matches, second and third teams, all of that sort of stuff. I'm not sure if they would treat that situation specifically where all 3 of these teams are tied at the end in points, but, these 2 teams finish 5th, 6th. I don't know if they're going to have a separate one between these 2 teams to figure out who gets the auto-qualify, and then the remaining 2 teams to figure out who gets the points bid. That is yet to be determined. Those would be interesting series, to say the least, to see who actually moves on between those 2. But there will be potentially at least one tiebreaker in the East. None of them involve U Ottawa. None of them involve Dark Knights. Every single tiebreaker that could occur would involve SNHU. Of course, if Scarlet Knights, Black, and SBU make it far enough in the tournament to the point where they are... one of the top 2 non-auto-qualified teams, they will not have to play a tiebreaker. If both of them do it, no one's going to have to play a tiebreaker. But it is very likely that there's going to be at least one tiebreaker in the East. The East is the easiest region to figure out because there are all these teams that are already qualified. There are 4 teams that have the auto bids. There's 2 that are advancing on either points or auto qualifies based on their performances. And then there's 3 teams that are still in the points contention. The reason why Fisher Tea Party is not allowed to qualify is because it is very likely, or I would assume, that Fisher Navy is the higher ranked team. They have an auto qualify win. Fisher Tea Party are already out. Basically, no matter what, Fisher Navy are going to finish better than Fisher Tea Party ever could. And that would mean that Fisher Tea Party are eliminated because you can't send 2 teams from the same school. That becomes relevant in the West, and I think I'll talk about the West next because that's the region I know the most about in this situation. It is a little bit more complicated, but nonetheless, the West has this situation, and the only reason why I put these teams up there is because of the fact that they... I put UCS. Oh, God. That's a bad gaff. USC Cardinal. Yeah, that's unfortunate. My bad. These were the teams that we were keeping our eyes on from the round of 32. We were saying, hey, listen, UCI and U Alberta are going to be in deep trouble if they don't deal with USC Cardinal, ASU Maroon, and CSULB Gold. These 3 teams, they were still in contention. USC Cardinal and CSULB Gold were still in contention going to round of 16. Both of them lost, thus they cannot get any more points than what they have now. They cannot advance. The reason why UCI has already qualified based on those is because they are maxed out at 100. You may be asking, Adam, but there's more teams here that can get 100. But once again, there's only one team that can get third. So only IVC or only UCSC or only SFU Flamingo can get 100 points to tie with UCI, at which point both of them go into the same pool for being points berths. They get seeded accordingly. How seeding works for finals, I'm not 100% sure. It isn't explicitly listed here. And they talk about the points and all that sort of stuff, which is fine. They don't talk about how they actually are going to seed teams for finals at the end of the year. So, in that regard, UCI, they have 100 points. No matter if IVC or UCSC Gold or SFU Flamingo get enough points, UCI will still have secured one of those berths. U Alberta, on the other hand, they are at the mercy of an IVC or UCSC or SFU Flamingo third place. What they are hoping for at this point is that either UBC or UCSD Gold finish in the top three. The reason why they want that, once again, UCSD Gold, despite Demigods not being officially affiliated with UCSD, they are still considered a team from that school. Unfortunately, UCSD Gold cannot go to nationals, from what I've understood. They are simply here to play spoiler, here to help U Alberta out, which is a little bit of a strange scenario. UCSD Gold, if they finish third, or in top three, or if UBC finish in top three with their auto qualify already locked in, there is no team that can get third place. The points just go away. So it's not as if the fourth place team all of a sudden gets 85 points, the fifth place team, etc., etc. They would not have that happen. They just eat the points, much akin to how Waterloo basically ate all these points to make North really interesting. That would be what UCSD Gold and UBC are doing. UBC already ate up 40 points in this tournament. Granted, the two teams that finished below them eliminated. They were somewhat irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. UO Green and who was the other team? OSU Varsity. They didn't make it close this time. They're not in the top 8, so they don't have the burden of that there. UBC was just playing a little bit of spoiler, playing for the scholarship money at that point, but still doing a pretty good job. UCSD Gold, if we look at the bracket, they have a relatively straightforward shot from what I've understood. If we're looking at this bracket. So they're playing against UCSC. And this is where UCSD can start to play spoiler really early, because UCSC, they need to try and win this tournament, or they need to try and finish in third place. That is their one-win condition to sort of make it in, either on points or on auto-qualifies. UCSD Gold are playing spoiler for everyone. Same with UBC. UBC can ruin IVC's tournament run by just messing everything up. UCR Gold, once again, they're not in the contest, or they're not in the discussion. They can play spoiler as well, because UCR Blue is in the mix. So UCR Gold, they have the opportunity to play spoiler in a lot of senses. In that situation, if both UCR Gold and UBC move on to this next round, they are ruining IVC's chance, they are ruining SDSU and UFC's chance. They are playing spoiler, they are playing for U Alberta at that point. They're basically playing to keep U Alberta alive. U Alberta need to hope that, I forgot to mention UCR Gold actually as well. UCR Gold or UBC or UCSD finish in the top 3 to secure themselves a spot into finals. I don't know what the situation between UCR Gold and UCR Blue would be. I believe they're going to end up... If UCR Gold are to win the whole thing, they might end up with the same amount of points. I'm not 100% sure how that all works out in the end. Actually, UCR Gold would have less points. UCR Blue is qualifying no matter what. UCR Gold had 5-5, and then they're going to get whatever points they get this time around. So they can play spoiler as well. There's 3 teams that U Alberta want to win, and there's 5 teams, SDSU Black and UFC Black are going to be interchangeable, that U Alberta do not want to do well. For these teams specifically, though, once again, it's finished top 3, and you're in good shape, at least for these teams. Their CPP Black top 3 finish, they either get the auto-qualify, and they're saving U Alberta, or they are finishing 3rd place with 2 other teams above them, UCSC, SFU Flamingo, let's say, for instance, finishing in the finals. CPP Black would book themselves a tiebreaker with U Alberta. 85-55, it would be 55-85. It would be the opposite there. SDSU Black or UFC Black, whoever wins that needs to win the entire tournament. They need to come second. They need to finish top 2 to have any chance of qualifying. Else, they do not have enough points. So that's the West. In a nutshell, it's a little bit more straightforward in that sense, where you know just finish top 3, and that's how you get your qualification. U Alberta are heavy fans of UCSD Gold, UCR Gold, and UBC, and they do not want the other 5 teams to win or come top 3. That's how it goes. U Alberta are fine with SDSU Black or UFC Black going. They're moderately okay with CPP Black. They have a chance at life. The other 3 teams, they don't want them. So, if we just say every match is a 50-50, it's about a 62.5% shot for U Alberta to still qualify. Granted, we have seen some crazy miracle runs come through, and CVAL, we've seen upset stories. UCSC Gold is quite good, from what I've heard. A lot of players are pretty high on them. That could be a team that finishes with an auto-qualify seed. Once again, UBC, UCSD Gold, UCR Gold. Those are the teams that U Alberta want to do well. The more of those teams that do well, the less U Alberta need to worry about. If 2 of UCSD Gold and UCR Gold and UBC finish in top 3, then U Alberta are secured in. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that. This spreadsheet will get updated. I'm going to keep updating the thread and everything as time goes on with different results. It sucks for UCSD Gold because they're a really cool team. I like them. A lot of how I judge teams based on how much I like them is honestly how personable their players are, how personable their staff are. I do interviews with them, right? I want to make sure that I can go into an interview and I can enjoy them. That's why I love Demigods. Amir's a really well-spoken individual. Their entire team is really well-spoken. That's what gets me to like a team at the end of the day. So, not really favorites. I'm from Canada. I would rather have U Alberta qualify through, just because, Canada Copium and all that. But at the same time, they do need to get some help from the rest of the bracket. UCI booked in. Once again, they've secured themselves a spot. The South is not too complicated either. There's 3 teams sort of that are really close in contention, and the rest of them need to win out. Yes, UT Orange can technically advance on points, but that would require an implosion from Ottawa Braves. It would require UT Dallas plus UH Premier to go to finals, and it would require Blinn, TAMU Maroon, and OC Esports to all drop down. Granted, with that bracket specifically, South Spring Tournament, Oklahoma Christian and Blinn are playing in the first round. TAMU White, they're a repeat team. They can't do anything. TAMU Sentry can play massive spoiler for Ottawa. Because if TAMU Sentry beat Ottawa Braves, not only can neither of those 3 teams qualify, it gives so many more options for UH Premier, for UT Orange, for Oklahoma if they pass through, to get one of those seeds. And it also secures a lot more for UT Dallas, who didn't win, but they have so many points at this point. They have 95 points, that if a lot of those points are eaten up by some of those other teams, some of these AQ teams, it can give UT Dallas a chance to move on as well. I need to update this where they are only getting 95 each time. This is rough for them if it's, some of these lower teams finishing in the finals there. That would be really rough for UT Dallas. They want as few upsets as possible. They want to have these teams at the top do really well and eat up some of those higher point seeds. Ottawa, they still have to play their game. They're in the best shape right now, actually. just realized that I didn't check the bracket earlier. This is actually 105 that they get. They got 10. This is 105. At the very least, you know, UH Premier is the only team that can really knock them out with a strong performance from Ottawa Braves. UT Orange, if they finish in third place and don't auto-qualify, UT Dallas has a tiebreaker against them. Oklahoma needs to win. UT Academy needs to win. Or Oklahoma needs to come third with an Ottawa Braves 7th, 8th, which could happen. They would have 80 points. They would... Yeah, they would clear. UT Orange would clear as well with a 4th. The South is the region that I've sort of had the least attention on. I think more so just because a lot of the teams don't stream their matches, or I'm not aware of the streams of their matches. Rally Cry only does the final weekend there, which, you know, that's all they're obligated to do. I'm not going to knock them for that. But I feel like it's the hardest region to keep up with. UST isn't going to be in the hunt this time. They FF their round of 32 match. These three teams are very good. UT Dallas, quite good, I want to say. Ottawa Braves, quite good. UH Premier, quite good. These three teams are going to be the ones to watch. I wouldn't be too surprised to see Ottawa Braves getting an auto-qual and then pushing UH Premier up. I'm not too sure about the rest of these teams. Oklahoma still has to play a game, actually, against UH Premier. So Oklahoma might just be eliminated early, and that would just put a little bit of that pressure off of UH Premier. So that's sort of the rundown on the South. Final region we have to look at is the North. This one is the most confusing one. This is the one I fucked up on the spreadsheet that I sent out. Basically, Mizzou played Fall in the East. They didn't get any points from what I remember. They got 5 points. They moved over. They were an instant hit. They got an auto-qualify seed. Northwood, they've won it twice. They have double auto-qualified. Northwood is looking poised to triple auto-qualify. They are a juggernaut. They are an incredible team. They are going to be difficult to take down. The interesting part about all of this is where TMU Blue comes in. And this is where I thought that they were under the moniker of TMU Shorty Kings in the fall. They were actually TMU Gold in the fall. So TMU Gold got 40 points in the fall. They finished 5th, 6th. They switched colors to TMU Blue, and then a new TMU Gold came in. But because 3 of the 5 players went to TMU Blue, that means that that's they keep the points. They move on from there. TMU Blue is in decent spot. They've got 90 points. The issue is that Indiana, Akron, CGC, UIC, SEC Varsity are on their tails. They're chasing them down, and these three teams seemed poised to potentially surpass what TMU Blue were able to output. The good news for TMU Blue is that Northwood, once again, they are favored to win. I think they are still the strongest collegiate team. They clear everyone, it feels, at this point. Mizzou are an incredibly strong team as well. They had a couple of struggles in the round of 30, or not in the round of 32. In group stage, actually, they dropped them up to York. But then again, it's group stage. Some of these teams are, playing a little bit more fast and loose in that situation. I wouldn't be too surprised to see Mizzou finishing in one of those upper spots again. In that situation, TMU Blue, they are hoping that St. Clair and CGC have a rough go of things. They're hoping Akron doesn't do much more in this tournament. They are cleared by Indiana in almost every single facet of it. Indiana's going to be in prime position. They haven't quite secured it up because there is a world where they finish 7th, 8th. And if Northwood win again and the two auto-quals don't go to... or the other auto-qual isn't eaten up by Mizzou and it doesn't transfer down, there's a chance where, St. Clair get 4th. And... or Akron... No, in that situation, Indiana's still safe. Let's say for somehow, some way, CGC UIC is winning this. And then Rochester, Columbia College, one of those two teams, or TMU Gold, end up coming in second. Northwood are eating up the third place points. Or in that situation, it'll have to be SEC in third, Akron in 4th, Indiana finishing 7th, There's a lot of like hypotheticals in that situation where that would eliminate Indiana, but they're in really good. They're in a really good spot. They have a lot of chances to qualify. As teams get eliminated, as teams get sent to the lower bracket, specifically after the first weekend, Indiana will either have secured a berth for themselves by getting enough points and there not being enough points left available on the table due to the two teams being eliminated, or they will be hoping and praying for the downfall of a team like CGC UIC, a team like St. Clair, a team like Akron, that they don't go too much farther. The thing is, it's really jumbled here. TMU Blue are in really rough shape because they cannot improve on their seeding. They cannot improve on their 90 points. Indiana can, of course, improve. All of these other teams can improve. TMU Blue are hoping that, honestly, Northwood win again. They're hoping Mizzou comes second. They're hoping, in all honesty, they're hoping that Indiana takes one of those auto-qualify spots so that they have a little bit more breathing room above them. They're hoping someone like Akron takes up one of those spots as well, and they're hoping that TMU Gold bail out their homies and stuff like that. St. Clair in the winter got 10. They finished 9th, 16th, so they get 10 points. If I look at the bracket here, North Winter... Academy got 20 points. St. Clair Varsity, they lost to TMU Blue, and that would put them in 9th to 16th. They still get points. Yeah. No, top 32 get points. The only time that teams have made a playoff bracket and not gotten points was in the East in the fall, where there was like 300 teams in it or something. But yeah, so they get bailed out with a couple of points in the winter. That's the same sort of moniker that, well, Indiana, they came 7th, 8th. They didn't have a great performance in the winter either. Carleton have sort of fallen off the cliff, but they still got points. Doesn't really matter to them at that point. But yeah, basically St. Clair and CGC UIC, they could be set to face off in the winners semis. I was looking at this with Hybrid yesterday. Yeah, they could be set to face off in those upper semis. For CGC, they want to beat Indiana as soon as possible because that's sending them to the lower bracket. They're St. Clair as well. They're going to be facing off against Rochester or Columbia. That's definitely winnable games. If CGC UIC move on, whoever wins this upper semifinal basically guarantees themselves enough points to move on, bar a crazy lower bracket run. The craziest thing here is that Northwood and Mizzou are facing off in the first round. And then whoever wins this matchup between TMU Gold and Akron has to face one of these two juggernaut teams. Whoever loses that matchup has to face the other one of those juggernaut teams. It's going to be pretty messy there. In terms of seeding and stuff, it isn't explicit in the rule book, at least, how they're going to do seeding. At least not that I have read. Map pool, agent select process, game rules. Yeah, this is all normal stuff. Code of conduct. Don't be stupid, basically. Spirit of the rules. That's just punitive actions. Okay. There's nothing specifically about how seeding works. And while there is some implicit feels to it, I think that what is happening is the teams that finish first are going to be placed higher, as they should. They should get better seeding for winning finals. The second place teams are going to be seeded sort of second, and then the points teams, because they technically didn't win or anything, they'll be seeded after. That's what I would assume would happen, unless there's some sort of discretion as the CVAL selection committee works as well, where you can move some seeds up and down depending on how well they actually perform. By the looks of it, there's nothing straight explicit about that. There's nothing that talks about CVAL finals in here, unless there's another document that I missed out on. These are the rules that are in place as of right now. I just clicked in the CVAL Discord beforehand to sort of figure out how those rules work out. But basically, it would be better for any of these teams that are in the hunt still to qualify off of an auto qualify as opposed to qualify off of points. Points is the weakest qualification thing. It's basically just due to the fact that they can't fit in a fourth tournament unless they started this in like August, and I don't think teams are looking to start in August. Granted, if some schools want to start in August, I'm fine having a summer split for CVAL if it means that there's more games and there's more stuff to cast. I'm perfectly fine with that. That's just me being, selfish about it because I like to cast Valorant. Whether that is the case or not is how it is. So, anyways, there's the basic rundown of how all these points work out. A little bit confusing overall, still. Of course, the fact that TMU Blue can't improve on their standing makes things really rough for them. That's sort of a team that I'm wondering if they can still qualify. Their fate is in the hands of all of these teams above them. It is unlike in the West where, you still have some options to sort of spoil. Despite these teams not winning, they're still in the hunt to potentially spoil. U Alberta are cheering against these three teams. They are not really cheering for the other. It's going to be one of SDSU, Black, and UFC, of course. They're not 100% cheering for them, but they wouldn't mind if they do good to take away points from the other teams. They should be actively cheering for UCSD Gold, UCR Gold, UBC to finish in that top 3 or better to try and solidify their spot. So U Alberta definitely have a better chance at qualifying than a team like TMU Blue. TMU Blue are sort of left up a creek without a paddle. They need a lifeline thrown literally by their sister team and TMU Gold. They need TMU Gold to do really well, steal away a lot of these points from these other teams to get a chance. Indiana's sitting really pretty right now. They're feeling really good about themselves being in that position. This can change, of course. This can change on a dime. Indiana has another poor performance. They finish 7th, 8th. They have 100 points. They're going to be a sitting duck. They're very likely... Well, Indiana has to play CGC UIC. So if that's the case, CGC UIC is already up to 90 points, which puts them into a tiebreaker with TMU. If CGC UIC do any better, that's 110 points. That's putting Indiana in the hot seat. Once again, it all depends on how Northwood and Mizzou place as well, because those auto-qualifies could come in clutch for a team like Indiana if they don't do well. And if they do well, it can bode well for TMU Blue if Indiana has started taking the pressure off of the top. South, once again, the region I know the least about. UT Dallas are okay at this point. They're in a better situation just because of how many other teams are there. There's 3 auto-qualified teams already, so that could move the seeds down to 4th, 5th. They would love if Blinn, Tammy Maroon, OC Esports finish in top 3. That's going to force Ottawa to have a really strong performance. That's going to force UH Premier to have a really strong performance. There is a world where UT Dallas doesn't qualify based on Ottawa and UH Premier's performances. It would have to literally be, for UT Dallas to not qualify, I believe, it would have to be, well, no, it would have to be like 2 of these other teams qualifying up. So UT Dallas, they're feeling pretty good. Ottawa Braves are in a better spot. They still need to win their round of 16 matchup. And then in the East, it's the simplest as possible. Basically, depending on the bracket, I'm going to check the bracket really quick to see who they play against. So Dark Knights play Scarlet Knights. Stony Brook plays U Ottawa. The only time that gets hairy, and that's what's interesting here, is 2 of the 4 auto-qualified seeds are going to be in the lower bracket. And they're going to be going up against Stony Brook and Scarlet Knights. SNHU are praying that these 2 series right there are really close, and these 2 series are stops. They want to have Stony Brook and Scarlet Knights come out super flat. They want to force them onto 40 points. SNHU might actually have more of a lifeline than I thought. If Scarlet Knights, Black, or SBU do anything, if they win a single game, they are forcing at the very least a tiebreaker with SNHU. If they win 2 games, they are knocking SNHU out. Of course, both of those teams would have to move on, or both of those teams would have to do well if that's the case. But I think because of how many auto-qualifies there is a world where Scarlet Knights, Black, and SBU, if they don't finish 7th, 8th, they're getting an auto-qualify seed of some sort, or they're getting enough points to force a tiebreaker. They're going to be in good shape. You are confirmed in. Dark Knights, UCF Black are confirmed in. UCI is confirmed in. Those are 3 teams that will qualify. How they're seeded as of right now, not 100% sure, but yeah, that's the basic rundown of how everything is. Yeah, chat, if you have any questions, I will try and answer them to the best of my abilities, or other people can try and chime in as well. I don't know everything about CVAL as it stands. Oh, Zach wanted me to do predictions. God, doing predictions is like the worst thing I can do. I'm gonna make myself a fool if I do that. If I'm being real, in the East, Auto is gonna get an auto qualify. I think Dark Knights are gonna get an auto qualify as well. They're gonna finish in the top. They're gonna finish better than SK Black and SBU. If both of these teams finish, for the record, if both of these teams finish 7th, 8th, they will play in a tiebreaker to decide who gets the second point seed. Because a lot of these other teams have sort of faltered down. Northeastern is the only one that's close. They've got 30. They're not even going to be close. A lot of these other teams don't have any points. It's been a lot of the same teams in the East. So SNHU are hoping that, the scenario we just played out happens. It's kind of likely because of the matchups they're facing. But at the very least, no matter how they perform, both Scarlet Knights Black and SBU are going to have an extra game at the end to tiebreak. So I'm going to say, yeah, Auto 1, UCF, or Dark Knights. Sorry. Auto Garnet, Dark Knights are going to get auto-qualify seeds. SNHU, you know what? I'll say they're going to get one of those point seeds. And out of these 2 teams, I don't know enough about them. I think Stony Brook gets I'll say Stony Brook gets the second one. West. I'm about to make some enemies here before I even cast these teams. I have to do interviews with them like this week at some point. I'm gonna make some enemies really quickly with my statements here. UCI's already in. They don't have to worry. I'm gonna say Alberta. They qualify off of points. They get that second qualification seed. I think that UBC, UCSD Gold, and UCR can mix up the bracket enough to where one or both of them get into top 3, or one or 2 of them get into top 3, and they just push all the points down to the point where it's going to be really challenging. I think one of the other auto qualifies from this is going to be UCSC Gold. I think that's one of the teams. I don't want to bet against SFU Flamingo. They're playing CPP Black, though, and then they face winner of that matchup. They're both on the same side of the bracket as well. That's kind of messed up. Oh, okay. Hybrid actually just posted his bracket. I'm going to... Let's look at these. Also, hi, Hybrid. I know you can't verify your number, so whatever. Is that just because I have, like, super hardcore chat security on? Okay, that's my bad. Let's take a look at this. Totally non-biased predictions. One sec. So winners finals is best of 3 or best of 5 for the record. But that would be interesting. I'd be interested to see how well they do here. In this situation, so I'll use this as an example for possible results and how it works out. In this situation, St. Clair gets one of the auto qualifies. The other one goes to Akron. And then Indiana gets 5th, 6th points. They get through on one of them. CGC, UIC get 5th, 6th points. They would play in a tiebreaker with TMU. So that would mean Indiana qualify. That would mean CGC, UIC, and TMU Blue play in a tiebreaker. St. Clair would get the auto qual. Akron would get the other auto qual. That's according to this. Next region, East. So this is going under the assumption that Scarlet Knights and Stony Brook Red aren't going to get anywhere, and they will have to play in a qualifier. As we mentioned, U Ottawa, Garnet, Dark Knights, they've already auto-qualified, or they've already qualified at least on points or on auto-quals. This would ensure that U Ottawa is getting the second auto-qualification here, and that Dark Knights are getting the first one. This would cause Stony Brook Red and Scarlet Knights to play in a tiebreaker to see who gets the last point slot. This would mean SNHU Blue gets the first points slot. Next region, South. Oklahoma Christian, Blinn, TAMU Maroon. That's your 3 already qualified teams. Is this assuming... Oh, yeah. Blinn losing in the first round again and then just running the lower bracket. That's no surprise. TAMU White can't qualify because they already have another team that's qualified. This would ensure that... Well, UH Premier... Let's see. If UH Premier finish 5th, 6th, they would not have enough points to qualify. This is with Ottawa going to lower round 3. That would give them more than enough points to qualify. That would actually give them an auto-qualify. Actually, no, it would be 1, 2, and then auto-qualify. Auto-qualify. UT Dallas would get in as well. And then... I need the South bracket up again. So yeah, under those pretenses, UT Dallas is qualifying in. UT Orange have like no points, right? So UH Premier would move on with auto qualify. UT Dallas get in, and then sorry, I'm doing math. That would actually make Oklahoma Wesleyan still in the hunt. I may have neglected them. Oops. Yeah, it would be Oklahoma Wesleyan. If they're still around. Because, yeah, UT Academy... Or, no, it would be UT... It would be UT Orange. Okay, never mind. I am correct. It would be UT Orange. Can we get to the other one? Under those pretenses. It is possible that this team could qual. It is possible. I have now realized that. But it is going to be unlikely. Okay, there's another mistake that I made on the spreadsheet. Okay. And then West. So, the one way that I'm not sure how this plays out. So, I am not sure if UCSD Gold win the spring tournament and they had more points in winter than demigods, do UCSD Gold take their spot? I don't know. And while they are considered to be from the same school because they're comprised of students from the same school, I don't know how that works out. This bracket saves U Alberta. This bracket would have SFU Flamingo and I guess IVC moving on, with the auto qualifies. That's pretty spicy. Because CBP Black are 5 points behind. UCSC Gold are... They're 10 points behind. UCSC Gold are 5 points behind Urban Valley. That would be spicy. That would be a spicy prediction. That is a spicy prediction. So then we'd have to figure out what happens with UCSD Gold. Because if UCSD Gold do get an auto-qualify somehow, then it would be them and SFU Flamingo. If not, it's SFU Flamingo and IVC. That's an interesting situation because Demigods, they shit the bed. They did not do very well in winter. Love them, love their team. They did not do well in winter. Or in spring. UCSD Gold did far better in winter than Demigods did in spring. And if they win, I don't know how that works out. It would have to be the higher ranked team, but I don't know who's higher ranked in that situation. They would have to figure it out. That's some school drama that I don't think I'm in a position to comment on. That'd be interesting. That would... What do you say is the explanation? Consistency. Okay. Chatting. There you go. You can chat. But the SFU players are like, yo, we're losing everything. I mean, that's the sort of confidence you like to inspire there. I might fill that out later. I might fill it out for content purposes. But anyways, SFU has been very good recently. I agree. They looked pretty good in the Canada qualifiers. I mean, they beat U Alberta. And them making top 8 is... My desk is shaking. Oh, my goodness. Them making top 8 is a really big step up for them. I really like how they're looking. Yes, Alberta is struggling. I have to take the higher road and use more neutral terms. Alberta's struggling, but under your bracket specifically, Alberta would still qualify off of points. In my opinion, I think UCSC is going to go pretty far. I think they're quite a good team. Will they get an auto-qualify? That'll be interesting. Yeah, Alberta have been struggling. I agree. Them losing to UFC Black is... It doesn't inspire confidence. Now, the one caveat about the whole thing is... And I won't speak to rumors. I will simply speak to what I've heard. Well, that's technically speaking to rumors. But SJSU is looking really rough right now in terms of it's up in the air if they will accept their berth to CVAL finals. Now, in the hypothetical that happens, I would want to clarify with Riot how it works, because if that is the case and SJSU don't take it, I don't know if Alberta gets considered an auto-qualify because they finished third in that tournament, or if there's just another points bid that gets added in. In which case, in this situation, UCSC would advance on points still. Alberta would get the second seed or whatever, and there would be an auto-qualify. In that case, I would be surprised if they don't just sort of bite the bullet and let UCSD Golden, but that might open the door for a team like USC Cardinal to have a second chance at life. And that would be interesting. I don't know what Riot's ruling is on that. I can guarantee Tyz is not watching the stream. He might watch it back later. Who knows? If you are watching, Tyza, thanks. I love you. But that would be very interesting if SJSU do not opt to go. That's a hypothetical for another stream. I'm gonna be real. I will wait for my takes on that until it's official and it's set in stone. I really like the SJSU team as well. I think they're some really strong players, but of course, you can't stop graduation, and in a lot of ways, I think that they have a certain level of pride that they want to carry into finals if they do attend, where they don't just want to go in there looking like a terrible team and just, basically make a fool of themselves. I think that their story sort of ended on the right note. All of them sort of played together for such a long time. They were able to play in Campus Clutch. The only one that they didn't qualify was this year's one, but then they won CVAL instead. It's a really cool story for them. And if that is where their story ends, I would be okay with it. That is all I will comment on the matter for the time being. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, I think that about wraps everything up. I click stop record.